How's it going, guys? And welcome back to BL3's Forgotten, the series where I take a look at underused and not often talked about pieces of gear to determine whether or not they deserve to remember within the modern meta of the game or should be left behind and forgotten. And today we are taking a look at the Traitor's Death. If you like to get the Traitor's Death for yourself, it can be gotten as a reward from completion of the 15th main story quest, Going Rogue. If you've already previously completed this quest, you can instead obtain it from the Crazy Earl Veteran Rewards vending machine on Sanctuary. The Traitor's Death is a unique purple-rarity Jakobs assault rifle, having completely locked parts and being unable to be anointed. The unique effect of the Traitor's Death is that it has a 25% chance to deal double damage as fire damage. The wording on this description is a little bit misleading though, because this effect is actually way better than it sounds. If you're doing 25,000 damage with this gun, you're not doing an additional 25,000 incendiary damage. No, instead you are doubling that 25,000 to 50,000 and then dealing that as incendiary damage. So when it procs, you're effectively doing 3 times the damage total, which of course then also gets hit by the elemental effectiveness multiplier, either buffing or nerfing that a little bit. This also seems to take into account the total damage dealt rather than just being 2 times the card damage, meaning that this is actually a pretty strong effect. The Traitor's Death is easily one of my favorite uniques to grab during a story playthrough, and it being from a story quest makes it all the more convenient. It also comes up at a very convenient time, being right before entering the cellars prior to Grave Ward, which is full of COV enemies, making that incendiary effect pretty damn useful. This is probably my single most used non-legendary unique weapon in the entirety of 3 just due to that, and therefore I do really appreciate this thing. That being said, I don't think I've ever once used the Traitor's Death at endgame, and taking it to True Molly 1 Takedown, I was pleasantly surprised. Not because it was a great and completely functional weapon, but more because it wasn't completely dysfunctional. The damage output was decent enough, and it was able to kill trash mobs reasonably fast, falling off only against badasses, but still able to kill them. Immediately, I could tell that this was once again another quest reward weapon that is only going to be bad because of the lack of an anointment. And giving it one, yeah, I mean, it's noticeably better. It still wasn't amazing, and it definitely felt a little bit inconsistent at times, but overall, it was a buffed up variant of your average purple Jakobs AR, which is exactly what it's meant to be. With an anointment, it's absolutely usable and a pretty damn good time, and once again, I'm left absolutely gobsmacked, utterly baffled, and completely flabbergasted, astounded, and dumbfounded at the fact that there are so many guns in BL3 that have been shafted purely because, for all the good Gearbox did with this game, they never got around to fixing anointments on a huge amount of quest rewards. Even anointed though, it's definitely still not the best thing ever or even the best purple Jakobs AR. Purples, aside from being able to be naturally anointed, are also able to roll with the Masher or Gatling prefixes, and this is something that I really wish was possible on the Traitor's Death. While I do hate the idea of potentially having to farm a quest reward, we've got the Earl vendor, and therefore I'd be chill with it if it meant that I got a full auto or ×4 version of the Traitor's Death. Particularly, I think this would be really good with Gatling, because the biggest issue that faces the Traitor's Death isn't even the fact that it can't be anointed, it's how inconsistently the effect itself actually procs. 25% sounds like a lot, that's a 1 in 4, but for anyone who is a flak player and has played around with Two Fang, you know that 25% in this game really isn't that much. Two Fang is very rarely taken on flak, and with good reason. It's not a bad skill, it's just a niche skill because of how low the proc chance is. 1, you only ever really want to use it on single projectile weapons because bonus projectiles, and 2, you want to use it on high fire rate weapons because you need to be spamming out bullets to really make the most of that 25% and be proccing it very often. I find the Traitor's Death runs into the same issue where 25% really just isn't enough for this to be consistently procking, at least as much as I would hope that it would. I think the Traitor's Death is the perfect example of what your average non-legendary unique should be. Of course, having the goofier things like the Chomper or things with very unique playstyles like the Quick Draw also feel completely fitting for unique weapons, but on average, I think they should be something like the TD. This is a gun that is effectively no more than a purple Jakobs AR with what amounts to almost a mini inbuilt anointment-like effect. It's nothing too big or fancy, there's no spectacle here, it's your average Jakobs Jakobs AR, except it sometimes doubles its damage and gives you a little bit of elemental coverage as it does so. Along with that, as I said, it shows up pretty much right when you'd want something like this, right before a stronghold-like section full of flesh bars, 2 of which are going to be bosses. It sort of hints at what's coming and helps you along with it. Overall, the Traitor's death holds a really special place in my heart. I use this thing a lot, as in a vast majority of my playthroughs make use of this weapon, and for good reason. It's simple, decently strong, and one of the single best examples of what your average non-legendary unique should be. It's just a shame that while it's good in the end game, like many other quest rewards, it's held back more than it reasonably should be due to not being able to be anointed. I guess at least we don't have to worry about that in BL4, and I worry about that, I mean worry about quest rewards at fucking all. That's gonna about do it for this one though. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, definitely consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, all of that. I'll be live right here on YouTube and also over on my Twitch channel, where there'll be a link to down in the description below, and just under that is a link to my Discord server where you can come and join and hang out. But with that all being said, I hope to see you guys in the next one.